Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jeremy Leffler, and I work in the Policy Office in the Division of Institution and Award Support at the National Science Foundation, and it's my pleasure to welcome you back to another session of the NSF Virtual Grants Conference. And I'm now pleased to present this session, which will cover the programs in the Directorate for Geosciences. This session is being presented by Jennifer Wade.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the part of the Grants Conference where we tell you a little about the Directorate for Geosciences. I'm Jennifer Wade, and I'm a program director in the Petrology and Geochemistry program, which is in the Division of Earth Sciences. So as you've likely learned in other sessions, GEO is one of many directorates at NSF, and our mission is to support fundamental research in atmospheric, earth, polar, and ocean sciences, and to address the nation's need to understand, predict, and respond to environmental events and changes in order to use the Earth's resources wisely. We support research in all geoscience fields and polar research, as well as the integration of research and education and infrastructure, instrumentation, and facilities. So GEO has 5 main parts, and we're going to cover most of these in detail. There are the divisions of Earth, Ocean, and Atmospheric and Geospace Sciences, plus the Office of Polar Programs. There's a 5th unit called ICER, or Integrative Collaborative Education and Research, and this basically handles a lot of the cross-cutting programs that GEO engages in as a whole directorate. So we're going to focus on the first 4. So let's start with Atmospheric and Geospace Sciences. So AGS supports fundamental research on the processes that impact the composition, phenomena, and behavior between the sun and the earth. So this includes space weather, climate, air quality, lots of things. And they support large, complex facilities that are required to do that kind of work. So AGS, like all of the units in GEO, is made up of a few sections. So there's geospace, which covers everything from the upper atmosphere to the sun. There's the atmosphere section, which covers things like meteorology, climate, even paleoclimate. And then there's the NCAR and facilities section, which houses the National Center for Atmospheric Research and manages the many education programs in AGS. On to the Earth Sciences, or EAR. This is where my division is. EAR is interested in the structure, composition, and evolution of the Earth, all the way from the tree canopy through the soils, the crust, the mantle, and into the Earth's core. We support field work, theoretical and computational work, experiments at the large scale and the micro scale, as well as infrastructure. So while AGS has 3 sections, we have 2, the disciplinary programs and integrated activities. Disciplinary programs include the many sub-disciplines of earth science, from geobiology and geomorphology to hydrology and geophysics. Integrated activities is where all the sort of cross-cutting programs live. So education and human resources, which manages the research experiences for undergraduates program. We have an instrumentation and facilities program, a frontier research program, which is for large projects that might be too big for those disciplinary programs. So a range of things in EAR. Ocean Sciences is next. Of course, OCE supports research on and in the oceans, as well as ocean interaction with the Earth and the atmosphere. And they also support some major shared use facilities like ships, submersibles, and ocean observatories. So OCE has 3 sections. One that covers biological and physical oceanography. So if you study animals or currents, this is for you. The marine geoscience section covers the chemical aspects of oceanography, as well as marine geology and geophysics. And then the integrative section handles the large facilities, the ships, ocean drilling, also ocean education. Lastly, and kind of most broadly, we come to the Office of Polar Programs. So while the other 3 divisions are divided by discipline, Polar Programs is defined by geography. So OPP funds all kinds of science, not just geoscience, about and in the Arctic and Antarctic, as well as providing logistical support for all of that research. So OPP is divided into naturally the Arctic and Antarctic sections, and you can see from these lists that a wide range of disciplines is covered. So there's glaciology and ocean science, but also ecosystems and astrophysics. So in any other part of the world, you'd find these topics covered by other directorates like biological sciences or math and physical sciences. But OPP handles it for all of the Arctic and Antarctic. And there are some cross-cutting programs too, like Polar Cyber Infrastructure or the Fellows Program. And before I move on, I just want to say this overview is really intended just to give you a first pass of familiarity with the various parts of GEO, and that heading to the division or office pages to read more about each program, or using the award search pages that you might have learned about in the proposal preparation section of the grants conference, is a really good way to learn more about each program and sort of get a feel for where you might fit within GEO. So next I want to talk about a few GEO and NSF-wide opportunities for early and mid-career researchers, which we care a lot about in GEO. So NSF supports a number of fellowships for graduate students and postdocs. So the Graduate Research Fellowship Program is NSF-wide and provides a great opportunity for early stage grad students to get independent support for their work. The GRFP website is a great resource. I've listed it here, as well as the solicitation number, which you learned about earlier this week. So it's easy to learn more about this program. I also want to highlight that every unit in GEO now has a postdoctoral fellowship program, which is really exciting. So take note of these solicitation numbers here, and especially of the deadline types. So you learned earlier this week that these can vary, and it's important to know which kind of deadline or target date you're submitting to, or like in the case of AGS, that there's no deadline at all. For those of you that have moved past the student or postdoc stage, GEO, of course, participates in the career program. The next deadline is coming soon in July, but as we note, you can always start thinking about what you'd propose next year. If you are interested in the integration of education and research, this might be the program for you. So career is for pre-tenure faculty, while the mid-career advancement program is for those at the associate professor level or equivalent. It's really aimed at protecting the time for established researchers to sort of focus on making that research progress. And you can learn more about each of these NSF-wide programs if you just Google each of these solicitations. One more GEO-specific program that I want to highlight is GeoPaths, or Pathways into the Earth, Ocean, Polar, and Atmospheric and Geospace Sciences. So recognizing that the path to geoscience is really different for most high school, community college, and college students, it's really different from those in, say, chemistry or physics, right? GeoPaths really invites proposals that identify, broaden, and strengthen and sustain pathways that will engage and retain a broader spectrum of students in pre-college, undergrad, and grad geoscience degree programs. So there are 3 tracks to this program. Informal networks is aimed at engaging upper-level high school teachers and students, as well as undergrads. The undergraduate preparation track, or UP, engages pre-college and undergrad students in training and experiences focused really on service learning and workplace skill building. And then graduate opportunities, or GO, focuses on institutional collaborations that improve research skills and open career pathways. This is a great program. You may have known it in the past as I use GeoPaths. Now it's just GeoPaths, and you can learn more about it at the solicitation listed at the top. It's just one of the many great GEO programs that's focused on broadening participation in the geosciences. So I want to take the last few minutes to talk about the merit review process in GEO. So you learned this week at the grants conference that once a proposal is submitted, it goes through a review process that might involve reviewers or a panel or both. I want to reiterate here in this session that the whole range of merit review happens within GEO. So some programs use just ad hoc review, some only panels, and some, like my program, use both. So I just want to remind you here to make sure that you understand by reading the program solicitation or other opportunity how your proposal is going to be reviewed, because that might impact how you frame what you're proposing to do. I also know that you learned this week about the merit review criteria, intellectual merit, and broader impacts. And I want to stress that the broader impacts are a very important part of proposals that come into every part of GEO. And those broader impacts could really take a variety of shapes. So your broader impacts could be about teaching and training, mentoring students, of course. They could be focused on broadening participation of those who've historically been excluded, something that is a significant problem in the geosciences. You could focus on building partnerships, maybe internationally or just with an institution that's down the road. You could be disseminating science to the public, doing research that impacts local policies, or building infrastructure that benefits others at your institution or in a developing country. So all of these and more are valid, great, broader impacts. And of course, the solicitation might tell you what specific goals it has. And so you want to, again, be sure to read the guidance that you're given and make sure that what you're proposing to do fits that call. But we really support a broad portfolio of broader impacts in GEO. And the last thing I want to say about this is that it's always better to do one or two of these things really well, rather than to try to do everything. So focus on the broader impacts that suit you, that suit your institution, your project best. So that's NSF's Directorate for Geosciences. There are a lot of ways to learn more. You can go to the GEO page on nsf.gov to learn more about all of the programs that I've highlighted here. You can sign up for emails from NSF, and every division has a newsletter that you can sign up for too. You can just go to those division pages and find out how. And if you have questions after this week, I really encourage you to get in touch with the program directors that are listed on those program pages that you're interested in. We are here to help. We are happy to do so. If you don't know where to go, my email is here on the screen. You can always reach out to me and I will point you in the right direction. Thanks.
Okay, so we're going to come back live here and be able to take your questions. So what I'd really like to encourage you, we have a relatively small group here, just over 100 participants compared to some of the other sessions that we've had where we've had thousands. This is like a small group, can be a small group discussion somewhat. So I encourage you to please submit your questions now. And before we start answering questions, I wanted to just turn it back to Jennifer a bit to talk a little bit more about the Geosciences Directorate.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. One of the things I didn't really talk about earlier, I went through the programs and how GEO is structured. And I just want to stress there's a lot that goes on within GEO that's not just done within the core programs that I highlighted today. So for instance, the National Academies recently did a consensus study, sort of like a decadal study for the Division of Earth Sciences, and they laid out some priority questions for the Earth Sciences community. And we take a lot of time to read through that and think about what are we funding that aligns with those priorities, which are largely community driven, and what new things could we do that might better align with community priorities. And so that recently happened in EAR. It happens in all of the divisions sort of on a regular basis where we'll engage a community to tell us what they're thinking about. So it's always a good idea to look at the GEO page to see what kind of documents there are that are sort of guiding our bigger thinking. And then also NSF itself might have a bunch of priorities that we also are aligning ourselves with, including those of the administration. So there are a lot of different aspects of GEO that connect to the broader community as well as NSF.
Right, and I would suggest another resource for that big, broader kind of overlook is to look at the budget requests that NSF puts out every year.
Absolutely.
Because you can really see the focus not only of the administration, but of the agency as well. So Jennifer, I'm just going to start going through some of these questions here. The first one is asking about the difference between target date and deadline. And while not necessarily a GEO question, I'm sure this applies to a lot of programs in your directorate.
Yeah, very common question. So there are a few different kinds of submission. There are target dates, deadline, or no deadline. Also submission windows. So the difference between a target date and a deadline means, by like June 8th at 5 o'clock local submitters time, your proposal has to be in to NSF. Anything submitted after that will not be accepted. In fact, a lot of programs have a hard stop, but it'll just bounce back. So you cannot submit after that date. A target date means we expect everything to be in by June 8th, 5 o'clock local submitters time, but there might be a reason that you need to submit, 2 days later. You're going to be out of the country for 3 months leading up to that date, and you come back 2 days after that. You can communicate with the program director of that program to get a little bit of wiggle room. So it means there's a little bit more flexibility in the timing of submission. It also makes it a lot easier if you submit something. We used to have target dates in my program, so this happened often. You might submit something and there's an error in your proposal. The target date allows a little more flexibility to make some file updates before the proposal is sent out for review. But the main difference is one is can be flexible. The program director has flexibility, and the other is just a hard stop.
Great. The next question is asking about if there are programs for early career researchers that fall outside of either the postdoc fellowships or the faculty early career program. Yeah,
absolutely. So of course, anyone can submit a proposal to a regular program as long as they're eligible. So first, what determines whether you can serve as PI on a proposal is not, in most cases, right, for like a core program like the one I manage, unless it says otherwise in the solicitation. What determines whether you can be a PI is the institution, not NSF. So if you're an early career researcher, you have a soft money position, you're an associate researcher, if an institution will give you PI status, you can submit a proposal as long as you meet all the other eligibility criteria. And again, from my own experience in my program, we have a lot of proposals from just finished their postdoc, or they are a postdoc and they're still looking for a position, but they have PI status at their institution. And we say this a lot in our program too in EAR, there's no lower limit to a proposal. So if you just have a small idea, maybe it's a 1 or 2 year project, there's nothing stopping you from submitting that small project. So look at the eligibility criteria of the solicitation, talk to your institution about whether they'll give you PI status, or find a local institution where maybe as an adjunct you can get PI status. So there are a lot of ways to just submit a proposal like that. Other opportunities, so some parts of NSF use the eager mechanism, which is like to fund a small, very high risk idea. And that can occasionally be used rather than submitting a full proposal. But again, you still have to have an institutional affiliation to do it. So I think that gets to the crux of what this person is asking. As long as you're affiliated, they give you PI status, reach out to the program, tell them what you want to do, and they'll help you figure out a way to submit.
Great. Next question is asking about the types of support for instrumentation and facilities grants in geosciences.
Sure. So not every division has an instrumentation program. So there's an NSF-wide opportunity, which is MRI, the Major Research Infrastructure. That's for a certain size of instrumentation, and usually there's an internal competition at your institution before you can submit, and that can pretty much go to any part of NSF. So it can come to GEO, can go to chemistry, anywhere. But for a sort of, if you're looking for an instrument within your own lab that's smaller than that limit, the limit is escaping me at the moment. I feel like the bottom level is maybe $500,000, but don't quote me on that. I should look that up. So in the Division of Earth Sciences, if what you're doing is EAR related, we do have an instrumentation and facilities program. I can find the solicitation and put it in there. So there you can request to buy, say, an ICP-MS for your lab, or a set of nodal instruments that you want to deploy. There's even a technician support track in that solicitation that allows you to apply for support for a technician if you have a lab. So EAR does have that IF program. I'm not sure that any other division specifically has an instrumentation program, but Polar might. But what all of the divisions and units in GEO do, they all support large facilities, small facilities, distributed facilities that NSF-funded PIs can leverage and take advantage of. So, and some of them are facilities that you travel to that lab and use their instrument. Like, we can't buy 700 ion microprobes across the country, but we can support you to go and use one. We also support instrument pools where you could go and basically borrow an instrument from an instrument pool that is NSF funded and use that for your award. So there are a couple of different ways to support instrumentation and facilities. Kind of depends on which style of science you want to do.
Great. The next question is asking about the NSF research experiences for undergraduates program, the REU program, and maybe you can talk a bit about how interdisciplinary programs work with GEO and other NSF directorates. Sure.
So I'm not sure whether this person means REU sites or REUs generally, so I'll sort of cover both. So first I will say, the best way to get the best information about this specific topic is to talk to the people who manage REUs in GEO. So Aisha Morris and Jennifer Wenner in EAR, Lisa Rome for Oceans and Polar. You can look on the website for the names of everybody who handles these. But if it's REU sites, I believe there is some collaboration across GEO and bio. Definitely reach out to the program director, talk about what you want to do, and they can talk to you about how to support it. We've definitely funded research experiences for undergraduates on regular grant proposals. So this is through the REU supplement mechanism, which either can be added on to an award later, or you can write this into your proposal when you're first proposing it. And that can be collaborative across GEO, across bio, across different, across anywhere, because it's just part of a regular proposal. But for the sites specifically, I would definitely, I defer to those who manage the sites. So again, Lisa Room, Aisha Morris, Jen Wenner are the three off the top of my head that you could reach out to and ask about.
Great, and I'm actually just putting into the chat a link for everyone. There was a new REU solicitation that was just released yesterday, that has a revised deadline date and a couple of new opportunities as well. So just put that in there just so folks have some information about that. Next question is, can you talk about the difference between ad hoc and review panels?
Sure. So, an ad hoc reviewer, ad hoc reviewers versus a panel. So an ad hoc reviewer is an expert that we will send the proposal directly to and ask them to provide a review, which they write, they rate, and they send it back to us. And a panel is a group of people, usually separate from those reviewers, who come and read the proposal. They read the reviews that have come in, and they talk together about the proposal, and then they write a document that's a panel summary that is a separate document from a review. And it's really important to know when you're submitting which of these, or is it a combination of both, is your program going to use to evaluate your proposal? Because usually an ad hoc reviewer is like a really close expert in what you're doing. They might use the same methods, they might work in the same field area, they do the same kind of work. So these are the people that are going to be looking very closely at sort of the nitty-gritty details about what you're proposing to do. A panel is often much more broad. So again, just to use my own program as an example, we fund a big range of things, petrology and geochemistry. So we fund volcanology, we fund isotope geochemistry, we fund economic geology. So if you're proposing to do a study that's very specifically about isotopes, you want to write a proposal knowing that a panelist on that panel might be so broad that they do like physical volcanology. So you need to convince this person who's a smart scientist but doesn't do exactly what you do. You need to convince that panelist that what you're doing is so important. So you're writing to engage the educated reviewing community of the importance of your work. An ad hoc reviewer is going to look at the more detailed bits. So that's sort of that's part of why I like using both ad hoc reviews and panel, because you're getting both that sort of detailed perspective on, are they proposing the right experiments for what they want to do? And then the broad panel perspective of, well, how does this research they're proposing fit in the broader context of what a program wants to achieve? So that's sort of the difference. And some programs only use ad hoc review, and some only use panels, and some use both. And so it's usually explained in the solicitation or other funding opportunity how your proposal is going to be reviewed.
Okay, I'm going to follow up on that with another question that we received about serving as a panelist. Can this person serve as a panel reviewer, even while he or she may be in the engineering field, but they've been doing research in geophysics, for example?
Yeah, so one of the things that I was going to say at the end of this, but I'll say it now and I'll probably say it again. We always need new reviewers. And we certainly will use people sort of across communities. So from engineering into geophysics, it really depends on what kind of proposals we have. So if you're interested in serving, I really recommend send an email with your CV or your bio sketch to the program that you're interested in engaging with. So if in this case, if it's geophysics, you could email those program directors with your again, your CV or your bio sketch and say, hey, I'm really interested in reviewing. If you've never reviewed before, you may be asked to review before you're put on a panel, just because it takes you want to make sure you understand, have engaged in the reviewing process before you're there. But absolutely reach out to the program directors, flag yourself, hey, I'm really interested in participating, and we can get you into the system. For every proposal that I need to make a decision on, I usually have to send requests out to 6 to 10 people, and I might get half of those back if I'm lucky. And if we have 100 or 200 proposals in a year, that's a lot of reviewers. So we're very grateful for anyone who engages in reviewing, and it's also really beneficial to you as a PI because it shows you what's the cutting edge in the field. You can see how other people lay out their proposals. It's good exposure for you too. So it doesn't just benefit us as program directors.
Great. The next question, this person is interested in understanding kind of the intersection of subdisciplines of GEO, such as geomorphology or hydrology, with the RUI program and REU program.
Sure. So RUI, the research at undergraduate institutions, and REU research experiences, right? So those are NSF-wide, but all programs, geomorphology and hydrologic sciences, as well as anyone else in GEO of the core programs, take proposals will take RUI proposals and proposals that include REU experiences in those proposals. So I'm just trying to figure out how to answer this. So first, geomorphology and hydrologic sciences definitely interact as programs. They might co-review things all the time. That happens across all of the programs in GEO and across NSF. And I think all of us as program directors, including those two programs that you list here as examples, we really value supporting undergraduate institutions and research experiences for undergraduates in our portfolio that we want to fund. So how they're handled in a panel conversation, if we might have 3 proposals from RUIs, we'll usually try to talk about them together because they have a little bit different expectations, right? You don't expect that someone proposing to do research from an undergraduate institution is going to have the same level, like they're not going to have graduate students. So the level of work and the amount of time it's going to take to get something done is going to be different from someone who's submitting a proposal from Stanford. And we know that, and we don't expect them to be the same. So, and we want to support those institutions. And so there's a lot of conversation and care that goes into handling those proposals. And really we pay a lot of attention to, is the level of work that's being requested, is it appropriate for undergraduates? Like, are you proposing work that would be better done by a postdoc, or is this, or especially in the REU space, what I look for a lot is, are you proposing work, like we're not just hiring people to like wash dishes in the lab or make thin sections, if anybody even makes thin sections anymore, but are you giving these undergraduates a meaningful experience for their undergraduate research experience? Is it meaningful to them and not just helpful to your project? So those are some of the things that we think about when we're looking at RUI or REU related proposals.
Okay, the next question, thank you, is asking about some specific programs in GEO and differences between the paleoclimate program and what I gathered also was the Paleo Perspectives on Climate Change program.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what you mean by a paleoclimate program. I think there's one in AGS, so it would be, I'm not sure exactly how that program interacts with the P2C2. I mean, I think you can do paleoclimate research that doesn't necessarily connect to climate change, which is the key definer of the P2C2 program. So that the key difference is really, you can think about paleoclimate without being worried about climate change. That should go to paleoclimate is my guess. But if you are focused on using what you learn about paleoclimate to talk about climate change, it should be in P2C2. That's another great space where if you're not quite sure where you fit, reach out to the program directors of those programs and send them a paragraph that's like, hey, this is what I'm proposing to do. Could you help me figure out where this fits? I also think it's really useful to look at the NSF search, just the award search page, which is on the main page of nsf.gov. You can type in keywords about the kind of work you do. It'll pull up a list of everything that NSF has funded in that space. And as you look at those, it'll tell you which program funded that. Sometimes that's a good way to sort of, if you're not even sure where to start, that's a good way to go. But I would email the program directors listed in P2C2 and paleoclimate and just say, which one of these should it be in? Maybe they'll co-review it. That also happens a lot.
Great. The next question, it's kind of setting you up to do a general call for reviewers, but this person is asking, how can you participate as a reviewer, and how does that work perhaps in your program or in GEO? Yeah,
so as I said, same as what I said about being a panelist, if you aren't yet reviewing, send your CV or bio sketch with a little email of introduction to the program that you're in, or programs that you're interested in reviewing for, that's sort of as closest tied to your work, and just say, hey, I'm really interested in reviewing. Some programs, I think hydrologic science does this in EAR, has a survey around somewhere where you can sort of fill out a little like, hey, I want to be a reviewer, and some information. So some programs do collect information like that. You can go to their program pages and find that on nsf.gov, but the most straightforward way and the fail-safe way, send an email. And if you don't know who to send it to, feel free to send it to me and I will direct your information where it needs to go. But as I said, we always want new reviewers and we welcome them anytime. There is no window of time where you can't ask to.
Great. The next question is asking about key elements for a strong rapid proposal in GEO. And just for everyone's benefit, rapid proposals are submitted to NSF when there's a severe kind of urgency for access to data or to specialized equipment. And it's a mechanism that allows NSF to be very quick in the review and turnaround in terms of and making awards. So perhaps you can talk about that a little bit from the GEO perspective.
Yeah, so a lot of the rapids that I see, not surprisingly, are from big disastrous events, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, hurricanes, like in this example. A strong rapid proposal in my experience, the first key is making the case that these data have to be collected now. So what is it about making these observations or collecting these samples that has to be done right now and could not just go into a regular proposal that's going to be reviewed later? Again, to use volcanoes as an example, you know, volcanoes have been erupting for millions and millions of years. So these rocks will exist. This ash will exist. Why do you need to collect it immediately? What are you going to learn? What time series do you need? You know, what is it about making these observations now that qualifies it for rapid? So a strong rapid makes that justification really well. Most programs also, this is true in my program and many others, a strong rapid proposal has a very good plan for making the samples and the data available to the community immediately. Because a rapid doesn't go through regular review the way a regular research proposal does. So we're basically, if we fund a rapid, we're saying you're anointed to get these data, these observations, these samples right away. But that comes with the responsibility of sharing them, because we're not funding anybody else to do it. It comes with the responsibility of sharing those data and those samples with other people, with other researchers who might be interested. So it's sort of like a community service. At least that's how we view it in EAR. The example that you've given, collecting topographic data before and after a hurricane. So again, talk to the folks that fund that kind of research about what makes a strong rapid for them. To me, again, make the justification. Why is it important to collect that data before and after? A strong, you know, a really strong reasoning is the basic key, and data sharing.
Right, great, thank you. So going back to REU, the REU program, the question is, do overall research questions need to be developed for REU sites? And you had mentioned that you can submit proposals as an add-on to an existing award or as a supplement. So can you talk a little bit about what that might look like?
Yeah, so to the first question about does a research question have to be developed for a site, I'm going to defer that to those that manage the sites specifically, because they have ideas of what they're looking for, and I don't want to speak for them. So that's a question to definitely reach out to whoever manages the kind of site you're interested in proposing in that division. Talk to them. To the point about including a research experience in a proposal, it's usually not a site that's included in a proposal. It's usually a research experience for undergraduates at your own institution, right? Because a site brings people from other places to your institution, whereas you can propose a research experience for undergraduates within your institution in any proposal, or add it onto a proposal. I think I've seen one. Actually, I just funded a career that is sort of like a site. They're bringing some students from the region to participate in an undergraduate experience, but it's not formally a site. It doesn't have the same formal application process that a REU site has. So I know it sounds like a sort of semantic difference, but you know, the REU sites are funded as individual things. They run for several years. Some of them have been running for decades. But you can certainly include that in a proposal, call it out as a research experience for undergraduates. We're also going to, if you do that, we're going to hold you to some of the requirements which are there to make your experience stronger that are in the REU solicitation. And again, the supplement piece, if you have NSF funding right now and you maybe you had a student this semester who was just spectacular, and that student really wants to get engaged in your project over the summer or something like that. Talk to your program director about a supplement to support that student or those students. We've funded many of those, because sometimes when you write a proposal, you don't know who's going to be engaged or who you're going to need to work on that project. So absolutely talk to your program director if you are funded already. And because REU supplements are usually something that we like to prioritize.
Great. We have two questions here about types of reviewers, and so I'll just combine the two. So the first one is, do you need to be affiliated with the U.S. institution to be a reviewer? And second, have you seen instances where an administrator or non-faculty serve as reviewers?
Yeah, so this may vary by program, but I definitely use experts that are not in the US because science is an international enterprise, and a lot of the experts and collaborators with people that we fund are all over the world. So some programs may not. We definitely do in petrology and geochemistry, and most of EAR. We do use foreign reviewers for sure. Yeah, if you're even, no matter what you're employed as, if you're an administrator or a research technician, we've certainly used you as a reviewer. If you have the expertise, right? All we're looking for is, do you have the expertise to comment on the project at hand? This is especially true, you know, if someone's proposing a broader impact activity that might be connected to a museum, you know, building a museum exhibit, or has some very intense educational implications and structure, I'm going to look for the people that have that expertise, and they're not always going to be a faculty member. So really it's about, do you have the expertise to comment on some aspect of a proposal? I rarely expect a reviewer to be able to comment on every single piece of a project, right? So we try to piece together a reviewer. That's one of the nice aspects of ad hocs, is you can seek out the expertise you need for the different components of a proposal to build a picture of what, of how those pieces fit together.
The last question that we have here in the Q&A, and we still have some time, so if you still have questions, feel free to send them in. Does GEO have funding to support climate resilience planning?
That is an interesting climate resilience planning. I think the closest thing that I can think of is the COPE program, which is Coastlines and People, which I'm just quickly Googling on the side here, just so I can remind myself of how it's worded, but it's very much about the risks associated with coastal hazards, and some of that does incorporate resilience. The planning piece may not happen in GEO. Some of that probably happens in engineering and in social, behavioral, and economic sciences, where they really think a lot more about the sort of the human resilience, infrastructure resilience to climate and other hazards. And COPE, the program I mentioned, COPE, Coastlines and People, is collaborative with those directorates of engineering and social behavior and economic sciences, also education and bio, I think. So that program for a GEO program is probably one of the biggest in this space, but I would look, again, this is a great time for the nsf.gov award search page, like see what programs are funding climate resilience planning, and my guess it will be SBE and engineering. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I don't see any additional questions at the moment. What I do want to thank all of you for joining us today. Thank you again for participating. Thank you, Jennifer, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.